Good afternoon, everybody. We welcome you to the Ohio Municipalities Business Conference, the first of its kind, under the leadership of Mayor Ginther. I will tell you, in our newsroom, we get a lot of press releases every single day. But there are so many coming into our newsroom on Ohio being on this list, Central Ohio being on this list of favorite places to move, Franklin County having the hottest real estate market, Cleveland doing this, Cincinnati doing this. We did a story on our newscast, in fact, last week, about Columbus being the 7th city nationally and throughout Canada is having the best tech talent here. So Central Ohio is on the move, Ohio is on the move as a state, and we're going to continue to do that, keep the arrows pointing up with conferences like this. We've also got a really special treat for you guys this afternoon. See all these chairs and all these microphones? We have got a terrific group of thought leaders, city leaders, civic leaders, and a great moderator. So again, you're gonna have those takeaway tools from some terrific people and some great diversified opinions coming your way in just a little bit after lunch. So let's dive in.
I'm Andrew Jackson. I happen to be in a building that houses two minority businesses here that I'm a owner of. One is Elson's International, which is a corrugated box company. We do work for the Ohio penitentiaries, and they have a facility in the penitentiary where they make boxes as well. We provide the Ohio Penitentiary with truckloads of cardboard that they use in their facility to train their people on how to make boxes. And they have some of the same equipment that we have in our plant. We're actually going to connect with the state of Ohio to talk about the people in their plant. When they come out of incarceration, if they want a job, they've been trained already. We have a second chance offender program, and we give people an opportunity after they paid their debt to society to work. You can't get to any size and scale when you're a micro business. And to be able to do business across the state is very important, because some markets do well and some markets aren't doing well. While Cleveland might be doing well in some markets, Columbus might be doing well. And I think it's a good test for you. Before you try to go regional, at least you go statewide. So it gives you opportunity to expand your business in a more protective environment. I think the idea of aggregating all across the state allows other people in the state to know that you exist. And quite frankly, our business, we cover a 200-300 mile radius, so we can cover all of Ohio, so I like that. We like being a good community citizen and the ability to help contribute to the economy in this region.
The Ohio Municipalities Business Conference is going to provide a great opportunity for leaders across the state of Ohio to meet and engage with small, minority, female-owned business owners to figure out how we can work together in building a brighter future for the entire state.
So the benefits of having a statewide conference of this nature, there are many, but one of the things that I think is important is an opportunity for cities and counties and businesses alike to get together and have a conversation about what we can do to make each other successful.
I don't think you want to be outside looking in on this. We've got great speakers. We've got great insight on huge contract and project opportunities, not only in Columbus, but in regions such as Toledo, Lima, Cleveland, Akron, Cincinnati, Dayton, and even southeastern Ohio. So we've got all those regions around the state participating on all the great development that's going on in their regions. And we want you, the business owners, to be a part of that growth and development.
There's nothing magical about being successful. The question is, will you share? Will you share what you know with somebody else? And I like the idea of sharing what I know. It's not a secret. The only place that I know of that success comes before hard work is in the dictionary. And so the first thing you tell people is you got to work. So I like the idea of being able to share with other entrepreneurs. And the second piece, though, is I maybe get a chance to learn something from somebody in the audience, because there's always a chance that somebody out there knows something I don't know. And so when it's time to ask questions, I hope people share information that I can learn something from too as well.
You bet. Give all those folks a big hand. We could have made that video probably hours long with so many success stories out there. That one gentleman said that he wants people to share. All right, I want to share just a quick personal moment with you. Interest of full disclosure, I wasn't the first choice for host today. I wasn't your first MC choice. So I'm coming in on this event a little bit late. But here's what I found out. Your first choice, from what I hear, you wanted somebody with, you know, you didn't want a boring news guy. You wanted somebody with maybe a little more flair, a little more verbal punch, that's from what I heard. Knowing what we know now, though, aren't you glad that Anthony Scaramucci turned down this event? Okay, all right. I'm the political guy. Political jokes write themselves these days, so I had to go for one. Let me introduce now the City Council President for the City of Columbus, Zach Klein.
Thank you, Mooch. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Man, wouldn't that have been amazing if we had Mooch here? Man, been a whole other conference. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I'm Zach Klein, the president of Columbus City Council. I just want to take a moment on behalf, I see my colleague, Councilmember Shannon Hardin, who I know you heard from yesterday, Mayor Ginther and others, to welcome you to such an important conference for the state of Ohio and certainly the city of Columbus. When Director Steve Francis first took the job as the Director of Diversity and Inclusion and being a Chief Inclusion Officer and Diversity Officer for the City of Columbus, and we sat down and had a very extensive meeting about the importance of diversity, not only in the city, but what it means for the city as a business entity. And the conversation really focused on two things. The first was, how do we improve diversity within the rank and file of our public safety personnel? And how important it is to have a diverse police force, a diverse fire force that represents what the city of Columbus looks like culturally and demographically. And the second was about small business. The first prong being, the city's in great shape. We're very fortunate. But how do we bring in a diverse supply chain to reap the benefits of the money that the city is expending in order to provide services to the city of Columbus citizens? The second part of that was, how do we create an atmosphere for all small businesses to thrive? And I want to applaud Director and Chief Francis and his team for the work that you've done thus far in making those efforts a reality. And I think this conference is an embodiment of the support that council is giving the administration and you specifically to do the things that are necessary to build a diverse workforce and grow entrepreneurial drive and small business spirit in the city of Columbus. And we appreciate in the same return the support that that office and the mayor has given council and some of the initiatives that we've taken with the sponsorship and partnership with the Ohio State University and the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And two small projects that we just would like to highlight that were in a testing stage is, I don't know if you all heard of McKinsey, McKinsey Consulting. It's a high-level consulting service, and I just use them as an example. They can go into businesses, usually large businesses, because they cost a lot of money, to tell the small business or to tell a business, here's what you're doing inefficiently and here's how to make it better. Here's what you're doing that we can improve processes so you can hire more people, hire more jobs, create jobs. Because at the end of the day, true job creation is going to come from people in this room. The great big fish deals that the city lands of 1,000 jobs here or 500 here are very important, and we'll always go after them and strive to do it. But the reality is, it's everyone in this room banding together and making sure we have a strong entrepreneurial drive and an atmosphere that grows small business that's going to be true job creation for Central Ohio and the city of Columbus. So through our partnership with the MBA students at the Ohio State University and the Center, we identified two small businesses where students who are getting their MBA, who are recruited by these top companies like McKinsey, are going in right now, and it's actually just finishing up, and identifying how that small business can be more efficient. So it's top-level talent doing a management and marketing analysis study of how that business can improve in order for that business to have an opportunity to hire more folks. And what the goal will be is to be able to take that partnership and expand it to other small businesses in Central Ohio so that top MBA talent can help out your small business to grow. And the second is on re-entering citizens. and building an entrepreneurship-based program that is being taught in some of our jails around Central Ohio that is being driven by MBA students and MBA professors from The Ohio State University. So it's that atmosphere, that attitude, that we are here to support everyone in this room. We're so thankful, Mayor, for you hosting this conference and for all the mayors around the state of Ohio to bring your businesses, your entrepreneurship spirit and drive so that we can create an atmosphere in all the state of Ohio to build strong economic success and opportunity, equal opportunity for everyone. So please enjoy the rest of the conference. And on behalf of the Columbus City Council, thank you for coming to Columbus, and we hope you enjoy your stay. Thank you.
Please welcome Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther.
Good afternoon. It is a great day in the city of Columbus, and so thrilled to have so many great entrepreneurs and business owners, business and civic leaders from across the state. So I often say that I have the best job in the best city in America. But the folks I'm going to introduce here in just a minute or two might have an argument with part of that. I am so honored that we have so many great local leaders that have joined us here today. I think sending a clear message that diversity and inclusion isn't just important to our little corner of the world, but to communities across this state, and that a level playing field, shared prosperity, and a future worthy of our children and grandchildren works everywhere. Each of our cities has unique strengths and challenges, but we all want the same things: to grow opportunities for our residents. And we all know that stronger economic development across our state is good for each of our cities. Here in Columbus, we're working hard to expand diversity both within our workforce and with our suppliers through a number of initiatives and goals. And like any smart mayor, I'm stealing ideas from my colleagues across this state and this country, because we have great mayors that are going to be sharing what they're doing in their communities, and those are important lessons for us to share across the entire state. We are working hard to hold our directors accountable for our vision and goals. That leadership from the top, Lieutenant Governor Taylor talked about it yesterday, and I know that our mayors are going to speak to it as well. You have to set the tone and hold our teams accountable while building capacity at the same time. We've also launched the Business Opportunity Assessment Program, an unprecedented public-private partnership to address the primary concerns of small, minority, female-owned businesses. Those concerns include access to capital, access to management and technical assistance, and access to key decision makers. And under the direction of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, the City of Columbus is conducting its first disparity study in 15 years. The study will determine whether minority and women-owned businesses are getting their fair share of access to municipal contracts. It's critically important for our work moving forward. I'm so fortunate to have great allies in this work. You've heard from our legislative leader, Council President Zach Klein, the chairman of the Small and Minority Business Development Committee, Chairman Shannon Hardin, is with us, and he's addressed us as well. We also have a great colleague, Columbus City Council, Councilmember Jiza Page. Would you stand up so we could recognize you? Thank you, Councilmember Page. So I said, let's get to the heart of it. We are blessed to have some great mayors, city commissioners, and leaders of our great cities that have joined us here today. They will have a great conversation about what's taking place in our cities across the state and lessons learned from our commitment to this work. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Dr. Bill Lafayette, who is founder, president, CEO, all-around rock star of Regionomics, to help moderate the conversation. Dr. Bill? And let me introduce some of our great mayors that are here. We are really, really fortunate to have the great mayor of David Berger, the city of Lima. Dave, if you'd come forward. Ted Carter, representing Cuyahoga County, our friends to the northeast. Mayor Paula Hicks Hudson from the great city of Toledo. Our good friend, the great mayor of the city of Akron, Daniel Horgan. Natoya Walker Minor, representing the great city of Cleveland. And a dear friend, the great city commissioner from the city of Dayton, Joey Williams. Do you have anybody else? And a great trailblazer in this work, tremendous work on the local level in the city of Cincinnati, leading the charge with the governor and lieutenant governor at the state level, representing the great city of Cincinnati, State Representative Alicia Reese.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. The light is kind of in my eyes, so you can see me, but I can't see you. Let me start off by framing the importance of what we're going to be talking about today with a short story. The state of Arizona gave a national office supply chain a $5 million contract. They were in competition with a 100-year-old in-state firm, but the national chain gave a bid that was $500,000 less, and so they got the contract. However, 62% of the chain's jobs in Arizona were part-time with no benefits. 100% of the in-state firm's jobs were full-time with benefits, including executive and management jobs, which the chain certainly did not have. The local company gave $35,000 a year to Arizona charities. The national chain gave zero. 80% of the local company's business services were provided by in-state companies. Less than 12% of the chain's business services were provided in-state. So as a result, on that $5 million contract that Arizona thought they were saving $500,000 on, they were actually losing $500,000 a year by doing business with the national chain over the local company. So the moral of the story is this: there are concrete economic benefits of doing business with local small and minority-owned businesses, especially if you are a government that's living off of tax revenues. But now let me afflict you just a little bit. Fostering small and minority business growth is especially important here in Ohio because our small business startup rate around the state is, to put it blunt, generally pretty dismal. I looked at the 100 largest metros in the U.S., and I ranked everybody's business startup rate. I do this every 3 years. Columbus has actually been rising a little bit in the rankings, and that's good news. We've got a very long way to go, but we're coming up. However, every other major metro in Ohio ranks in the 80s and 90s out of the 100 largest metros. That creates a whole host of economic problems that I don't have time to get into, obviously, but suffice it to say that it is very, very important that we here in Ohio focus on the problem of the business birth rate and how we're going to improve it. So that's what I wanted to share to start, so let me get to the panel. My first question for all of you, and I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of go down the line. Discuss, if you will, how your community is advancing business inclusion and diversity in your supplier base. What are the steps that you're taking, and in particular, are there steps that you're taking that could be adopted by the other folks in this room? Mayor?
Well, first of all, I certainly want to applaud the efforts here in Columbus to create this opportunity in a deliberate way for this kind of conversation. I think all of us in small cities face the same kinds of issues. We have limited resources, not just financial, but also organizational and human, so that the opportunity to connect with people and with organizations from across the state that can assist us in this challenge is very much appreciated. And we've had, I suppose, in my term in office, working with our economic development folks, our chamber, fits and starts. I can't declare success. We've been about the business of trying to stimulate through incubators and through very deliberate training opportunities, the opportunity to instill a sense of entrepreneurship within our community. But as you, I think, very aptly illustrated in your opening remarks, the rate of business birth is not high. So we continue to work at it. I certainly look upon this as an opportunity for us to skill up and look forward to future interactions that result from this kind of a statewide gathering.
Mr. Carter?
I didn't say anything before now. Good afternoon. My name is Ted Carter. I'm the Chief Economic Development and Business Officer for Cuyahoga County, today representing County Executive Armin Budish. For us, procurement is not part of economic development in Cuyahoga. It's not part of our office, I should say, but it's a key part of our strategy. So as everyone has already talked about, small business growth is part of our competitive strategy to have the county reemerge as an economic center of excellence within the state and the country. The county executive has made equity and inclusion a core principle of our county strategy, but also our office. And so we spent a lot of time reaching out and engaging in my office to small businesses, particularly through the provision of capital and technical assistance, working through intermediaries like Jumpstart. We have an SBA program that we just launched today to provide equity grants for small businesses that qualify. We also have ECDI, which I hope all of you are familiar with. They're one of our partners that we've provided several $million of capital. And last year, we launched a new fund focused on women and minority businesses with the Urban League and the National Development Council. On the procurement side today, and I hope that you get to know him, Louis Cartagena is our supplier and diversity officer, who's here. If he would stand just so that you could meet him during the course of the afternoon. We spent about $100 million in overall procurement, but the county executive, when he was elected in 2015, said and launched a study of our spend with small and minority businesses and found that our efforts were not sufficient. And so we have a program that's focused on quick payment for small and minority businesses, We've also relaxed our bonding requirements, both on construction bids and non-construction bids. So those are waived. The hiring of Lewis to give a point of focus within the organization. So he has the charter to engage department heads and chiefs to make sure that they're including small and minority businesses in their procurement. And that's not always a given because operational folks are going to be focused on the mission, and there's always this tension. Well, if I do that, then my mission is going to be, I can't satisfy it, which we all know is not true. And so there's a number of other areas which I can come back to.
Good afternoon. My name is Paula Hicks Hudson. I'm the mayor of the great city in the northwest corner of the state of Ohio. And in Toledo, we are excited about being here because it is part of our mission to be inclusive. It is not something that is an add-on. It is in our DNA. And we are working each and every day through our Office of Diversity and Inclusion and in our Office of Purchasing and with our different departments to ensure that we spread the wealth. And what that means is an intentional look at making opportunities available for all of our citizens. Within the city of Toledo, there's a couple of initiatives that we do. One is that we look to see whether or not that company is a local company, local preference. And then also we look to see if there is there a minority inclusion portion of any contracts or anything that we're doing. We also do reporting on a monthly basis to see how our departments are doing, and I will tell you that they're lacking. And a couple of things that you mentioned as it relates to breaking out our contracts. We're following some of the steps in Columbus, and as Mayor Ginther says, we don't reinvent good ideas. We just take them and make them and adopt them as our own. So that's what we're doing in Toledo, is adopting those ways to reduce barriers for businesses, entrepreneurs to be able to do business with the city of Toledo. I believe fundamentally that we as government cannot create a job. That's what you do. But what we can do is provide the fertile ground on which you can plant the seeds for your businesses to grow, and we will help you do that. And so that is one of the fundamental pillars of my administration, one of the things that we've begun to do. And while when I first started as mayor, there were problems with our numbers, but slowly but surely we are growing those numbers. And as I said last night, we are open for business, but you have to be ready and willing to come with your best game because we take no prisoners in Northwest Ohio.
I don't know how you follow that up, but I'll give it a shot. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Ginther and the city of Columbus, and I want to thank Nationwide for planting that darn theme in my head for the next 6 weeks as I drive around eating a chicken Parmesan sandwich. So, all kidding aside, I think Paula said it best when she said you have to be intentional. And being a mayor for the first 19 months, if you're not willing to grade yourself and say, we're a C, D, or an F on how we do these things, then you'll never be able to grow. Specifically, we've had and I hate to even say this word, it's a $1 billion sewer project that we're trying to lower. But we specifically contracted with the Urban League and with G. Stevens Incorporated to monitor our minority and women's participation. And we actually set aside we set a fairly high standard for local participation for local people that live in Akron. And we ended up getting sued. And the governor signed a law. And I get all that, but we ended up winning, at least the first portion of it, because if we're going to be the economic driver and that engine, we should be able to spend that money and help our local folks first. And if we can, it kind of it reduces I think the amount of power that we technically have with the procurement and the spending side. And I'm not necessarily waiting around for someone to save us. I think we're doing pretty good on our own. We could always do better. But if we can't control our own destiny and grade ourselves and say, hey, this is how we can do better, whether it's my cabinet or whether it's a new fire class, our city needs to look like its population. And it's an intentional effort to be able to do that and to go out and recruit and attract people to live in the city and to look like that. And we'll continue to do that as long as I'm mayor. And I said this last, of the greatest city, Akron, Ohio. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Natoya Walker-Minor, and I have the privilege of serving as the Chief of Public Affairs for the City of Cleveland. I, too, want to thank you all for the invitation and for planning this event. Just want to share a quote before I go into what the answer to the question is. Maynard Jackson, great mayor of the city of Atlanta, said in 1974, politics is not perfect, but it is a tool, it is the best tool to affect nonviolent change. Mayor Frank Jackson, who I work for in the city of Cleveland, we're in the 4th year of our 3rd term, he has a term called self-help. And that term self-help means for us, invest locally, procure locally, hire locally. We use our politics, right? We use the power of politics through legislation and ordinances to have minority female business inclusion, to have local hire, to have prevailing wage. We have used the power and the influence of the seat that he occupies as mayor of the city of Cleveland to work with our Chamber of Commerce. We have been advocating for community benefit agreements for the last 5 years. We have a memorandum of community benefit agreements that we use, and we work in tandem with the Chamber of Commerce to talk to developers and corporate Cleveland so that our ordinances around minority female business inclusion, our ordinances around local hire, our ordinances around making sure that pre-apprentice are included on the job are applicable in the private sector. We've been monitoring that with the Chamber of Commerce for the last 4 years. In the last 3 years, we've had $62 billion worth of construction $62 million worth of construction that has occurred in the city of Cleveland through the use of community benefit agreements. This past year inside the city of Cleveland, we had just shy of $300 million where we apply our local ordinances. So those are the things that we're doing. Every day we're advocating for that. This is personal. This is personal for me. My grandfather was a 6th grade education straight out of East St. Louis who came to Cleveland and started a company. And I can remember very vividly when he would come home and say he did not get paid for whatever reason, for the man, for those types of things. 25 years later, college educated because of the investments of my parents and grandparents, I stand in the city of Cleveland, I fight for this every day. And I fight for it through the use of politics and policies, through the relationships that we have with our chamber to affect change. This is what it's about, from the contracting side and from the workforce side, so that economic opportunity so that everyone in the city can have economic opportunity, not just corporate and not just developers.
Good afternoon. Again, Dayton City Commissioner Joey Williams. Really glad to be here today, particularly with this strong panel I have an opportunity to be up here with. Thank you, Mayor, for putting everything together. I am here representing Mayor Nan Whaley from the city of Dayton. Unfortunately, she's out of the country, couldn't be here today, but I'm really glad to be here. I think the mayor asked me to come because, one, I've been a member of the commission for 16 years, and I also bring a unique perspective because I've also been a commercial banker for a number of large banks for the past 25 years. If you're wondering, I started my career in high school. Seriously, great question, and I think what's been said in the panel, I would agree with the first part. For us, we decided probably a long time ago, but 10 years ago, we really narrowed it down to trying to help out small businesses, particularly minority businesses, women-owned businesses, local businesses. It's a matter of will. And once you really take into the whole thought process of a matter of will, and that starts at the mayor's office, the commissioner's office, city manager's office, all our different economic development groups, if we can really push and make sure everybody has the right thought process and they have that will, good things will happen. And I'm here to report that we've had some good things to happen in Dayton, Ohio. One of the things that we really push hard is we have participation goals on all of our contracts. And we are able to do that because of a disparity study that we did back in the 90s. We did our second one in 2008, and we're working on our third one now. That disparity study gives us an opportunity to really enforce our desire when we have goals for jobs. And we've really been pushing harder and harder. And one we're really proud of is when you look at our minority participation rate for construction jobs. In 2014, we were at 8% for minorities on construction jobs. In 2016, we're up to 20%. And thank you. And getting back to that whole idea of a matter of will, a lot of that was we had creative people within our staff who found that there were a lot of jobs where people were putting in waivers to not use minorities on jobs. And so we made a couple of changes to the waiver process to make sure that the waivers were really warranted in 2012. And since that time, we started to see the double-digit participation in minority participation. So we're really happy about that. And we've got some other things, but I certainly don't want to hog my time because I know I have Alicia next to me.
Well, thank you. So I'm representing my hometown, the city of Cincinnati, as well as the state of Ohio and my district, affectionately known as the Fighting 33rd. My background in this area, I'm very passionate about it because I live it. I want to thank Mayor Ginther for putting this together and Director Francis, because that's the big step. It has to come from the top. And certainly all of the mayors and commissioners who are on this panel. So I grew up in a small, family-owned, African-American-owned business in Cincinnati for over 40 years, before we had contract compliance and all these programs that we have today. And so I learned about how we have to make payroll, and if we don't make money that week, people don't get paid. If we don't get the contract, Mom says we're going to be eating peanut butter and jelly this week. Dad said I can't go to all of these networking events unless there's some contracts, because we're losing money and we don't have the staff to send to these events if there's no possibility of contracts. And so as I fast forward, was on Cincinnati City Council and Vice Mayor, and I've lived through 3 Croson studies, 2 at the city level, 1 at ODOT at the state level. I've had an opportunity to understand, to me, some of the things that need to occur and some things that have occurred. I live by 3 things as it relates to minority, women-owned, and small business. 1 is redevelopment of our neighborhoods, employment, and goods and services. And one of the things that we were able to do, once you get the Croson study, how do you connect the people with the business opportunities? Toya mentioned Maynard Jackson, and I live by his philosophy. He held up the permits of the airport. He said there will be no permits until you figure out how to have inclusion. Obviously, they figured it out, and now it's known as the city that's too busy to hate. It took they were able to take, through the contracts in the airport, they took a soul food restaurant, got them in the airport. Now they're a multi-million-dollar business. This is the type of boldness that this initiative is going to take. The first thing that we had to do, and we still have to do, is change the mindset. Number 1, we collect taxes from diverse people, from everybody. So you're not doing a favor to minority businesses. It's not a handout, it's not a favor for minority businesses. They pay taxes. And so what we're fighting for is equal access to the tax dollar. And that's what this initiative is about. In Cincinnati, we were able to have our convention center expansion when I was there. Everybody was into, we're going to be expanded. We finally got the money. I was one of the people that the mayor at that time asked to lead that expansion in terms of contracts. We went for everything from building the facility, which is obvious, everybody, the construction part of it, all the way to who's putting down the carpet, all the way to who is getting the food service contract. We're one of the few convention centers in the country that has African-American small-owned businesses inside the convention center. Not just when a black convention comes, any convention. They're in there, they're selling their food, they're making money. It was historic, and certainly other convention centers around the country are looking at that. In Cincinnati, we recently, the mayor put together, Mayor John Cranley put together an economic inclusion committee. And he brought together private sector, public sector, minority businesses, et cetera. And out of that created the Department of Economic Inclusion. Not the office, not the division, the department. And that department's job is to stay on top of the issues dealing with inclusion of minority businesses. Since that time, they have increased their numbers on small business to over 20%. We still have a ways to go on the MBE, but at least we have a department whose job is to stay on top of this day and night. At the state level, I'm very proud because I was former president of the Black Caucus, and the Black Caucus in 1980 had a law. We're one of, I think, only 2 states in the country that has a law on goods and services, 15%. We got the law. And that's the other thing. We get the law and we're excited. And every time they say, we're trying, if we could just find the people. We don't know if we can find them. Well, work with this governor, John Kasich. We got together and we said, we're going to put our foot down on it. It's the law. And so obviously when he put his foot down, because it came from the top, I've got to give him credit on that. Every cabinet member, all of a sudden, miraculously, we found qualified minority businesses. And we now have the largest spend in the history of the state, almost $300 million. So my point is, it can be done. We cannot put small business, minority business, women-owned business, and everybody business, little businesses, in a small piece of pie. You got to, if you're going to do that, you got to expand the pie. Number 2, development corporations. Most of our dollars now going into development corporations, port authorities, et cetera. We're giving them the money they're running on. And they say we're trying. They're not held to the same standards as we are. They could come in with a 50-50 partnership. We have to hold port authorities, economic development groups accountable. We then also must have development groups that can redevelop their own neighborhoods. We just did one in Cincinnati. I've got faith-based folks in a neighborhood called Seymour Avenue. We redevelopment. We got home ownership that was done by 2 churches, a Baptist and a Methodist church, and a developer. Can you believe that? The Baptists and the Methodists have gotten together and developed and own the property. Well, we just created a development corporation that would create jobs to clean up the neighborhood, that would create a partnership with the Port Authority. That's a unique partnership that I'd like to see maybe done in other cities that may not have that. We have a partnership, and I believe it's like 20 million. We asked for 50 million. I asked for 50. I think we got about 20 million, and we're bringing in grocery stores. So we could have ownership of those things that come into our neighborhoods. So those are the creative things I think that we can do. It can't just be the government, but we certainly can use our leverage, like Maynard Jackson said. There'll be no permits until you figure it out. Or like we said at Convention Center, when we got sued, we were $10 million under budget. They said, Alicia Reese, what do you want to do? You're going to get sued. They don't want to have the inclusion on Convention Center. We had just had a riot. I said to myself, we will be $9 million under budget, but we will have inclusion. And because of that, other projects have inclusion. So it's going to take some guts. They're going to come after us. But at the end of the day, when you bring the people together, like you just said, what we're fighting for, it's not a handout. Please, I want to get that. If you don't leave with anything else, helping small businesses and minority businesses, you're not giving them a handout. What you're providing is equal access to taxes that are collected from diverse base, and that's what we're looking for.
Well, some really tremendous initiatives going on around the state, but we're begging a very important question, and that's this. If we're going to recruit minority, women-owned small businesses to work with government, there have to be these businesses to recruit. So, is there a role for government in fostering the growth of these businesses? I certainly agree that government does not create jobs, but government can perhaps give a hand up. Anybody want to weigh in?
I'll start. In Dayton, Ohio, we work very closely with our Human Relations Council, and we provide technical assistance to businesses. However, our technical assistance, it's good, but it's not enough. Some of the businesses need a wide variety of services. So we found the best thing to do is to partner with other organizations within our community, whether that's a Dayton Chamber, Entrepreneur Center, NAACP, Urban League. We try to partner with others, and together we try to push and help entrepreneurs, small businesses to grow. And in fact, I'll do a quick brag. We're in the midst of a new program where we're having a quasi Shark Tank type of endeavor where we are asking all the small businesses in different quadrants of our city to come together and all the small business to put together a program where they share what they can do to help the community, a lot like Alicia just talked about. What can you do with your business to help the community? And what we're going to do is the winner in each quadrant is going to receive $10,000 of services to help them move their business to the next level, with at the same time it's going to help out our community. We're going to provide technical services, and we're going to work with others in our community to provide technical services. So that's what we're trying to do in Dayton.
One thing that we do in the city of Cleveland, we work with our Construction Employers Association, we work with the Cleveland Urban League and El Barrio. So what we all know is that estimating is the key to profits for small businesses. So we do inside the city of Cleveland in our Office of Equal Opportunity, and our director spoke a little earlier, Dr. Melissa Burrows, on disparity studies. We hold quarterly contractor meetings. We outreach and partner with those organizations to come in so that we can teach and train and prepare these contractors on how to make their profits. And the profits are specifically and explicitly tied to how you estimate, who you partner with. We also, through working with our Chamber of Commerce through community benefit agreements, we promote and advertise public-private partnerships, prime sub-relationships, and joint ventures. We also have the classes around joint ventures and partnering because we know that mentoring in all forms, irrespective if it's business or personal, works. And that form of mentoring is very much required so that small firms can become middle-sized firms to become large firms. And it takes that leadership and exposure and understanding how to manage effectively your business so that you continue to get the work on time, under budget, meet your expenses with your staff, make a profit, and prepare yourself for the larger contracts.
I think each one of us are uniquely aware of the role of government. One being is that there's a joke out there that says, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. I think we have all tried to change that attitude because, quite frankly, when we do knock on a door, it's like, you know, what do they want? What sort of issue did I do wrong? And I think changing that perception, that starts with a knock on the door. All of you are here for a reason, but who's not here? Let's ask that question. Who's not here seeking help, and who do we need to get out? So it's almost peeling back a couple of different layers. We need to change the perception of how we do business. Because people sit there and say, well, I can't call them. It's going to take me 9 weeks for a permit and all these other things. And then they're going to get involved and tell me how to do this. We need to wipe away that perception. I think that goes a long way. And I think all of us do a lot of the same programs and doing the reach out with the Urban League and the contractors and trying to do those things. But it's even more. I think it's even more of a concentrated effort on a public relation and a perception side. We're in the business of doing customer service. If we all can accept that, we have customers, period. And your motto should be anything else. You can write it all down in these fancy mottos and put them out on a plaque. They should be 2 words. It should be, we care. You care about everything you do. Once people start to accept that about what you do, I think it becomes a lot easier to go into their business and try and help them.
I think for us in Toledo that it's important that what we're doing here is on a statewide level. And what we started in Toledo was on a local level to open up and show what are the goods and services that we need to operate city government. We also began to look at what you just talked about, which is that cash flow issue, and working very hard to not be the obstacle. Thank you. Obstacle for failure for our partners. And I believe that everyone in this room wants to be a partner, be a mentor, be a mentee, be a supplier, be a construction, whatever it is that good or service that you provide. But on the city side, we have to make sure we get your bills processed in a timely fashion, that we remove whatever barriers there are. So what we have done is look internal before we go external to see what are we doing that makes it difficult for our community partners to be successful. And so for MBEs, we have had several workshops where we've talked about the jobs that we have and the supplies that we need for the various projects that we have. We are partnering with the University of Toledo and some of the other folks that have been listed here on how we can help entrepreneurs step up their game. Our Port Authority provides services to help do estimation, to help with bonding requirements, so that we can constantly remove those barriers. But the most important thing that I also want to say is that you have to understand that we're different and we don't know everything, and we may act like we have all this power, but the power really lies within you. And so if you really want to close that deal, you've got to also knock on our doors. And you have to let us know that you're out there, because that's one of the questions that I ask: who's not here? And how do we get to that person? And do they believe and understand that they can do business with the city or with government? Because so many of them think we're not big enough, we're not smart enough, we don't have the right equipment, we don't have the right pedigree, we don't have this, we don't have that. You have a product, you have a dream, and we need it, so for all of us to move forward.
I would say from my standpoint, our economy cannot grow if we don't have small business. So let me dare use this phrase: if we're going to make America great again, it starts in this room, if you accept that premise. We can't grow without small businesses being successful, delivering superior services. We can't keep taxes low unless you all are successful. And so I think the theme here, you've heard a lot about inclusion, is that we've had folks who are on the sidelines who haven't had an opportunity to participate in the American dream. I think now, you've heard about the history, and that was driven through political leadership. Now through technology, barriers are being reduced, and there's an opportunity for everybody to get in this game, but you got to have the technical, and you got to have the drive. So each of you has taken the time to say, is this a good use of my time? You've said yes. You're here to network, pick up new techniques and ideas, to be more competitive, to have the mindset to come strong. And but we've got to be here to help. And so I think each of the leaders here, and I know our county is focused on, how do we make it easier for you to do business? Do we have the response time? So one thing I neglected to mention, something that we've implemented as part of our outreach to minority business, is this quick certify. So if you are registered with the state of Ohio, you can automatically, with a little bit of work, become certified to do business in Cuyahoga County, and also within our regional framework. So those are the types of things that we've got to make you successful. We're only as successful as you are, and that's why we exist, quite frankly. No one reacted to the Make America Great Again. The mooch got some applause. I'm just lighting it up. We're getting so serious up here, but no, this is serious business.
Well, one area that I'd like to describe as an opportunity for all of us has to do with workforce.
Yes, good point.
Lima is now experiencing the strongest economy we've had in over 40 years. We've actually gone from our primary focus being on job creation to focusing on the fact that we now have a surplus of jobs. We've got over 1,500 jobs that on a rolling basis that are available and have been for the last 2.5 years. So we had to begin to rethink the whole issue of how do we connect businesses with the human resources that are in our community. And we found that we actually have a terrific opportunity, and I think every county in Ohio has this opportunity, and that's with Ohio Means Jobs. Mm-hmm. That office in Allen County has now transformed itself. It went from an organization 3 years ago which had basically 30 businesses signed up on their online database to where we now have 350. It's become this really rich database of postings. And then to match that, they've now created a staff that provides job coaching, assists people with creating resumes, deals with the issues that are really fundamental barriers to folks getting permanent jobs and maintaining them, that being transportation and daycare and drug abuse and all those kinds of things. And we really have, I think, begun to solve in a very practical way the issue of how do we make sure that the businesses that are looking to hire, in fact, can find people in a timely way. And I think, again, Ohio Means Jobs is a statewide organization that I don't think is actually living up to the potential it has, and I think we've demonstrated that in Lima and Allen County.
My belief is that we have enough programs out there. We have a lot to help you get started. But at the end of the day, the question becomes, where is the contract? And if the program cannot produce the contract, you begin to have people say, well, let me start my small business somewhere else. Let me live in Cincinnati, but I'm doing business all over the place because I can't get the contract. There has been a disconnect between the programs and the contract. And at the end of the day, this is about business. This is not the social program. This is the capital program. And again, it goes back to what I've been saying about the mindset. So we think about minority and women-owned and small business as a program, which then becomes a social piece. But if we think of them as we do when big business shows up, when big business shows up for a deal, they're coming for a business deal. They want the tax credits. That's right. They want you to lower the cost. They want to take out the taxes so they come with a package that is a deal. And small businesses is the key to growing. Small and minority businesses will hire and give somebody a second chance. They will invest and put their business in the corner store so that we don't have empty corner stores. But we have had a mindset of when they show up, we send them to the nonprofit, keyword, nonprofit program. We've sent a for-profit mindset business to a nonprofit entity. I believe that the Economic Inclusion Department, if it does the right thing, is the right way and should be out knocking on doors to get businesses and let them know that these are things we're looking for. When I was over tourism, assistant director of tourism for the whole state, I did the majority campaign, Too Much Fun for Just One Day. They said we needed a minority one targeting African Americans. Well, we came with Living for the Weekend and got the OJs. Well, we had to find a company who could do that. Reason we didn't have anybody who could do it, because we never did it before. So I found the company and I had to walk them through the whole thing to make sure they're successful. They're now doing other contracts with the state of Ohio. Those are the type of commitments. I think we have power. If the bank is not loaning, making loans to small businesses, then as a entity, if my mayor or whatever, the city, the state, we can't do business with you. That's how we leverage the things that we have in terms of the tools. I agree with the workforce piece because in my city we did, for example, the MLK Exchange. It's wonderful. Martin Luther King Exchange. It was one of my projects I pushed. I never thought in a million years they would have the sense, the nonsense to do Martin Luther King in the black community where there's 42% unemployment and don't have any African Americans working there. So that's why I want to thank Akron, and I voted against the governor, and I told the governor it was the wrong thing to do. I think they agree with me now, that we have to have local hire. Why is local hire important? Because, as you said, MSD, the ratepayers are going to pay. So if I got to go up on my rates, and now I got to look out the window and see all the jobs leaving out of state or whatever, out of my city, why can't I have a piece of the action? So I think, again, it's our responsibility to make the connection, but then at the end of the day, we rate ourselves if we were successful based on, did the people get a contract? Once people know that it's real and you can get a contract, you don't have to worry about small businesses jumping up, because the word to get out, you got to go there. They're looking to do business, and they're the real deal.
Well, I see by the clock on the wall that our time has expired. We certainly could do, I think, 1 or 2 more hours on all this. But I certainly want to thank you all for your attention. I definitely want to thank our panel for their tremendous and insightful comments, and I know that you've given folks a lot of food for thought, so thank you very much.